So knowing everything you know about Texas, all the work you guys have done, you've seen the growth in jobs, you've seen the growth in the industry here. When Elizabeth Warren writes to you, who did she actually write to?
The president, the CEO of ERCOT, but she mentioned me and the Texas Blockchain Council in the letter.
Yeah, I remember. When she does that, like, how are you actually feeling? Kind of what kind of emotions are you going through? Because there is that part that it's a function of success.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's a function of success that she cares that much. But she's never at one point demonstrated any real understanding of Bitcoin and what it is. Like, I think there are people out there who do make solid criticisms of Bitcoin, like things you should question. Like, you know, hers always seem unfounded to come from a position of ignorance. But how did you feel about that?
Well, you said it. At first, we thought, this is great. It's frustrating, though, because you read the letter and you're like, there's so many inaccuracies here. There's so many things taken out of context. So that's frustrating. But she elevated us in the conversation as sort of there were three components to that conversation. There was the industry association, which is us, the grid operator, and the elected officials. And to be in that conversation, that's where we want to be. A couple of years ago, that would not have been the case. So we welcomed it. We'd also welcome the opportunity to talk with her about. We did jab back a little bit in our response. We threw a little bit of So
dig it out, Danny.
Yeah. So Massachusetts, we have like 17 times more renewable energy in Texas than Massachusetts. So we put that out there, right? 17 times.
That's not a jab. That's a fact.
Yeah. And then I also would continue to tweet about the power prices, the day ahead markets in the New England, because they refuse to get natural gas from Canada. And their citizens up there are just paying crazy prices for their electricity. So we did throw a few jabs back and said that she should focus her efforts a little closer to home because they're struggling in the Northeast with their reliable generation, with power prices, all that stuff.
Can you find a copy of her letter? We won't read the whole thing.
7 pages.
7 pages. Can you summarize what she was kind of saying, asking, expecting?
She asked, it was pretty unprecedented, by the way.
Yeah.
Nobody that I talked to had ever seen a senator from a different state ask the CEO of a grid operator in another state for these kinds of things. So she asked for several things for ERCOT to respond around the load. Can the grid handle it? Is it healthy for the environment? All these kinds of questions. So the load, the grid, and the environment were the three main things that she asked about.
Who is Pablo Vegas? By the way, fucking great name.
Yeah, it is. He's the new CEO of ERCOT.
Okay.
So Brad Jones.
Brad Jones. Okay.
Yeah.
So the opening that got me is, Dear Mr. Vegas, we write seeking information about crypto mining operations in Texas and the impact these operations might be having on climate change, the stability of the energy grid, and subsidies ultimately paid by retail customers. And the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, ERCOT, is providing to crypto mining companies to curtail the operations during these times of peak demand. What's really interesting about that intro is that this letter could have gone two ways. It could be treated like a negative, and we want to know what the fuck you're up to. It could be like, seems like things are going pretty well down there. We want to learn from you.
Well, if you keep reading, it gets...
Yeah, I know. And it gets like, any key sections, like for the listeners, you think we should just dig out?
She starts to throw out some crazy FUD around page 2 or 3. But Danny, if you stay there on page 1 for just a second, you'll see the word subsidies.
Yeah.
That was an intentional word choice. Bitcoin miners get 0 subsidies from the state of Texas, right? They operate just like any other load here. There's no difference. In fact, we get treated with a little bit more skepticism because of the speed at which we interconnect.
Right.
So if anything, we have more to prove. So 0 subsidies. What she's referring to is economic incentives to curtail. Well, every grid needs that. You need economic price signals for loads to be more flexible. You don't want every consumer in their home when it's like 100 degrees outside Fahrenheit outside to crank their AC down to 65 because you could literally cause rolling blackouts, right? You need people to be thinking about when and where we're using electricity. So that baffles me.
Scroll down, Danny, to the next one. Let's see if we can find any juicy. They'll be using enough energy to power the entire city. It's a lot of citations. I want to see what she's actually asking for. Oh, wait, these are the
Here's all the
questions.
questions,
So
yeah.
go back up, Danny, just a touch. So question 1, for the year 2022 to date and for each of the previous 5 full calendar years, what has been the annual electricity consumption for crypto mining in Texas, yada, yada. Now, how many tons of emissions? How do crypto mining companies plan to scale their operations in Texas? What are the crypto mining companies? Is there any possible response to this? This is none of your fucking business.
That's pretty much what they said. So they've responded with a letter and said very tactfully, right? It's the grid operator, but basically they said that.
What do you think her motivation was here to step so far out of her lane?
It's political.
This is all political.
Oh, all political. Yeah.
Okay. Explain further.
I think maybe she has a genuine concern. I don't want to, I do want to assume the best in people.
Yeah.
So I think she has a genuine concern and probably no time to really get educated on it.
So this would be staffers informing her?
Probably.
Uh-huh.
Certainly staffers that wrote it. And so she has a dual motive, right? She has genuine concern, but she also has political points to score.
Okay. Where's the bit where you're mentioned?
Probably have to control F.
Come on, you know what page and paragraph.
I can't remember.
Here we go. Love this. While many business and retail customers are asked to voluntarily conserve power during these times, there is no requirement for them to conserve, though some companies involved in ERCOT programs under demand response agreements that pay them for curtailing their operations during periods of high demand. Lee Bratcher, the president of the Texas Blockchain Council, has said of the July heat wave that over 95% of industrial-scale Bitcoin mines curtailed their power consumption during peak demand over that week. I mean, they are part of this. They are actually telling what a great story Texas is doing.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool that you're in there, man. Have you got the reply?
I'll find it.
Yeah.
Is that on your website?
It was a press release.
Okay.
The Texas Blockchain Council responds to Senator Warren's letter.
Did she then respond to that letter?
No.
So just went silent.
Yeah.
What can be done to... Okay, let me take a step back. I've talked about this in a show about, I don't know if you heard it. I mentioned him actually when I was interviewing Senator Cruz. I got this email 7 months ago from this guy, Jason Meyer. He said, I'm writing a book, Pete. It's a progressive case for Bitcoin. Yeah.
I know Jason.
And, you know Jason. So I said to Jason, this is great. Do you want to come on the show and talk about it? And he did.
Yeah.
For me, I've said this over and over again, I think this is the most important book being written about Bitcoin for conservatives. Okay? The reason being is Senator Warren doesn't want to hear from Ted Cruz why Bitcoin mining is good, because it seems to me there's very little bipartisan support for ideas. Everyone just wants to fight. And I know we have had, Senator Gillibrand and Senator Lummis working together. It does happen, but generally speaking, and also when I see someone more on the left and they tweet about Bitcoin, or the people underneath repeat all the FUD. So we do not want Bitcoin to be a partisan issue. We want it to be apolitical. Therefore, it doesn't matter how much you hate progressives and you want to fight them. The best people to defend Bitcoin to progressives are progressives. And therefore, this is good for conservatives. That's my argument for it.
I'll read it for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's good. It's very useful.
What can be done to get to somebody like Senator Warren and just say, look, just take a step back. Just let's deal with facts. If you had Bitcoin mining within the state of Massachusetts, these are the benefits you're going to get and your constituents are going to get. If people were able to legally own and use Bitcoin, these are the benefits to your constituents. How do you get to somebody like that?
I think you need more data.
Okay.
We got to get more data, and we're working on it. We are compiling data. It just takes time because we know these things to be true because we've seen it firsthand, and also philosophically, we know it should work this way. But for someone that's skeptical, that doesn't work. They need to see the data.
Who on the left is kind of pro or Bitcoin curious?
In Texas?
No, just nationwide.
Ro Khanna,
Okay.
Rep Darren Soto
Okay.
in Florida is strong. My list runs out real quick.
Damn.
Ron Wyden, Senator Wyden.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you found the letter?
I think this is the press release.
Okay. With the nation's largest wind production and fastest pace of solar generation installation, Texas produces 18 times more renewable energy than Senator Warren's home state of Massachusetts. That's fucking brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, said Lee Bratcher, president of the Texas Blockchain Council. Texas Bitcoin miners act as a flexible load that soaks up the excess power capacity during times of low demand and turns off in the hot summer days when Texans use more energy. Bitcoin mining is also helping to mitigate the effects of flared gas, lowering the carbon impact by more than 63% by redirecting that gas to productive mobile data centers. The information that helps set the record straight, Bitcoin mining produces no Scope 1 emissions. What does Scope 1 emissions mean?
Direct.
Okay.
Like, you're sending air through these machines, so they're not actually producing carbon dioxide.
Globally, Bitcoin mining uses 66.1% sustainable power mix, including nuclear power. Bitcoin miners do not receive subsidies from Texas. Blah, blah, blah. Texas Bitcoin miners curtailed over 50,000 megawatt hours in July 2022. Bitcoin miners act as a buyer of first and last resort for renewable generation that is constrained by transmission capacity. Bitcoin miners are either the largest or second largest employer in 3 Texas counties. Wow, I didn't know that.
There's 254 counties, though, so we have a ways to go.
All right, but still, it's a start. In 2020, there were 8 million megawatt hours of wasted and curtailed wind energy in the US. Bitcoin miners turned that wasted resource into domestic wages, tax, revenues, and income. Bang, bang, bang. Take that, Senator Warren. I mean, it's just facts. Here you go. Fact, 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 fact. Fuck off.
Yep.
By the way, Pablo Vegas, what a name. I mean, congratulations. Well done. I found her whole letter particularly weird, and I think your response is brilliant. I feel like she should be coming down here to look at what's being done and see what she can learn and take back for her own state.
You would think.
I think that's silence. Well, this is where incentives are so weird. This is where I think the transparency of how bullshit politics and media is right now.
Yeah.
In that, maybe it's in other industries as well, but like working in an industry that is attacked so often and people are so wrong so often, it really exposes the incentives of these people.
That's very true. I mean, because like I said, the dual incentive there, it is a pretty strong incentive that she has personal conviction on this, but even stronger is what she's getting from her base when she makes these kinds of accusations.
Which is why someone like Jason's book's so important.
Absolutely.
Because we need her base to understand she's incorrect.
Yeah.
And she is spreading misinformation to her constituents about something that will benefit them.
I've got some crazy data for you that this is like, only our members have been exposed to this data. So putting it out there to the world. Exclusive.
Right.
On this survey that we conducted, Democrats in Texas were more likely to own Bitcoin than Republicans.
Interesting.
Democrats had a higher favorability of Bitcoin than conservatives.